The KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
Let's get to it. Your top 5 at 9. These are the stories we think are important to get your day off on the correct foot. Don't want to cut out all my lefties out there. The correct foot, not the right foot. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction is tomorrow night. We've talked about this over the year. You probably know most of the people who are going in, but one fun fact.
Yes.
2 members of Foreigner who are at long last going in. Foreigner should have gone in 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
But they're finally going in. Mick Jones will not make it. He's suffering from Parkinson's. He's not in good shape. But original drummer Dennis Elliott has also said, after all these years, I'm not going to go. And the reason was, he said, well, I didn't get the schedule of events until Wednesday night, and it's not to my satisfaction. So we're staying home. We have been asking for this for weeks. They have waited until the very last minute to send it, knowing we were all packed and going to bed. Totally unacceptable to us.
All right, Denny.
Hope you have a good time. Dude, I'm sorry. I'm a drummer, and I had to Google you. Yeah. Go to the Hall of Fame. Get that one last minute in the sun.
What else you got going on?
You don't like the schedule.
After this, you will never be invited to anything ever again.
This is your way back in.
Yeah.
Come on. All right, number 4 in your top 5 at 6. Gen Z's got a whole new thing happening. It's the new trend, and I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Glow birding. Not snowbirding. It's called glow birding.
All right.
The Gen Zers are heading south for the winter months to then work online. People who can work remotely, they're all doing what snowbirders did for years. Now, here's the thing. I mean, granted, I've been here 2 years, pretty much, just shy of 2 years. I didn't grow up here. Snowbirding is not something I'm familiar with. I grew up in the South. So I'm familiar with it from the other end, which is, look at all those trailers with Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan plates. They're clearly passing through on their way to Florida every year. Yeah. Did you guys grow up with snowbirding parents or grandparents?
Yeah, I did. My grandparents.
Yeah, where'd they go?
On my dad's side. They mostly to Florida. Okay. I think they're at the end. They were hopping down to Arizona for tax reasons or something. I don't know. There's something going on. You know, when people started transitioning from in the Midwest from Florida over there to, they said something about too many East Coasters in Florida.
Well, sure. Yeah. So that's how that works.
Ended up over there in Arizona, but absolutely. They did that for most of my childhood, it seemed like.
Tony, family members popping up for the winter and heading south?
No, my sis lives in Florida, but Mom and Pop and the Gramps toughed it out.
They toughed it out. Ryder, what's the situation?
Oh, my grandparents went to Florida every winter from like right after Christmas until the snow melted. I was insanely jealous. We never got to visit them. We only got to visit them in Detroit Lake.
Came back with these killer tans. Listen to me, just hawk it up here. Killer tans in the spring. And Pappy always had fish, some exotic fish to serve. Yeah.
Stories about how they didn't shovel all winter.
Born in Michigan, I was, but moved south, Maryland and then south as a kid. But so my godparents are friends from Michigan, and I only saw them on their way down and back up from Florida. The Kramers are coming. There's just 2 people. They were the Kramers. Didn't know the first thing about them, other than every time Paul always brought along a nice rump roast, and we would have it. Well, that's a good cut of meat, Paul. And I was like, he's got the best roast in the world. Yeah. And he drank Schaefer beer. That's all I know about my godparents.
Oh my God, Schaefer beer.
Sound like lovely people.
Takes me back. Well, I was at the airport this summer and struck up a conversation there at the corner bar at the airport with a 27-year-old lady who was doing this very thing. Glow birding is what it's called. Yep. And we just struck up a chat, and she said, and I said, well, where are you from? She goes, well, these days I live wherever I want. She just travels and works remotely wherever she wants. She said, I'm just going to go find a beach, stick my toes in the sand, and get my laptop out and get a good day's work in. I'm like,
I'm told technology can allow us to do radio from anywhere. What are we doing here? Let's all go to the beach for the winter.
Some sickos even actually go where there's more winter during the winter. Can you imagine that?
What kind of freak goes out to where it's already snowing in October?
Freak, I know.
Number 3 on your top 5 at 6. Look out, Canada. The mystery blobs are here. Environmental authorities in Canada are trying to figure out what are these unidentified white blobs that have been washing up on Newfoundland beaches.
Feels like we're doing the last story, like in the winter when the white blobs from Minnesota turn up on their beaches, you know?
Man, I'm going to cough. That's
what a
great.
segue.
But I don't even know what they're saying about it, but I love listening to Canadians try to explain things. Let me have a second of this.
All right. Smells like very strong smell of vegetable oil off it. I had environmental response. Coast Guard came out and took some samples there for a couple of days ago. And they haven't gotten anything back on it.
It smells like vegetable oil. They range in size from like a coin, a quarter, to all the way to a dinner plate. And since September, just been blowing up on the beaches. Newfoundland, Labrador. By the way, no one. If you live there, come on. Just be glad someone's showing up, white blob or otherwise.
I assume that's why Newfoundland is there, to catch all the crap before it gets to us.
When I meet people from Newfoundland, I look at their hands because it's just callous, just straight callous. Every square, it's just like, well, I've been pulling in traps and I've been out there in the sea water. Look at my hands. I mean, their hands look like they're 600 years old.
Oh, no thanks.
That's a hardy group of folks up there.
Sounds like
now with the white blobs, they're going to have, those white blobs are going to be, that's going to be breakfast meat by Christmas, trust me.
They're freezing it now.
We found out if you slice it and put it on the griddle, you never notice that it tastes like a vegetable oil dipped in cow dung. Number 2 on your top 5 at 6. Good God almighty, the Detroit Lions are coming to town. U.S. Bank Stadium is going to be rocking on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right now, the betting lines, interestingly enough, Vikings favored at home by 1.5 points.
Yeah.
They used to say home field's worth 3 points. They really don't say that anymore. Vegas has realized, like, home field in the NFL, not the biggest deal it used to be. However, at a stadium like that, with that noise that the Vikings fans make, I still say that's easily worth a point or two.
I mean, so Detroit basically plays in front of a pretty noisy crowd, too.
They certainly do.
It's when you get the noise.
Yeah, that's right. When the noise is coming at you. So what I'm saying is this should be a pretty evenly matched game. The over-under, 50.5 points. Great defenses on both teams, but I like the over. I think there's going to be some points scored.
Yeah, you think they're going to rack them up? I mean, this is a pick'em game. It really is. I said it yesterday. I think it comes down to some turnovers. Who's going to make the mistake in the game? It should be that close. Encouraging, but not. We don't know yet. Aaron Jones practiced yesterday. Harrison Smith practiced yesterday.
Right.
They're still questionable, but gosh, I'd love to see. I know Akers is back on the team. That's a good call.
Let's go, Cam.
Boy, I'd like to see Jones healthy in this game on Sunday.
Number 1 on your top 5 at 6 is going to be here in 1 second, because first we have to stop and say good morning to Victoria.
Victoria?
Yeah, Victoria.
I mean, all summer long I've been trying to get down to Floyd's, and then I don't know what. I get lost, distracted. But yeah, there's one more good trip in Floyd's before the snow starts flying.
Right on. Good morning to everybody down in Victoria. Here's your top story for today. The National Weather Service has finally come out and said, prepare yourselves. Wetter than average winter in these here parts.
Steel yourselves. How many ice scrapers do you have? You got to have 2.
I have none right now.
What?
I will load up. I will. Hey! I had a great one last year that wasn't so great as it turned out.
All right.
It's one of those ones you can lengthen the handle, but then you can't. Then it's like the ability to lock it in place left me early on. Like that little piece broke, and so now it's just like I can just whip it out like. It's a pain in the ass. I got to get a couple of good blades.
We'll get you over to Fleet Farm. They've got an entire section of blades over there.
Oh, that's where I need to go.
Assorted colors.
Oh,
we're looking at more than the average. Certainly the expectation, if nothing else, it's a safe bet we'll get more snow than last year, which was just under 30 inches total.
Ooh.
It's going to be a repeat to my first winter in town when it was just blizzard-like. It felt like the first week I was here before I was on the air. You and I was at a hotel right around the corner, a Graduate at the campus.
Yes.
And you came over and we sat at the bar one night and I was like, I mean, I'm really excited about the snow, but like that's some snow. I mean, I would sit in my room every day and look out. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And you were like, this is nothing.
Yeah,
this is just
settle in.
It's just Minnesota. I'm looking forward to it.
It was an epic winter. I think this winter probably not that big. I mean, you can't predict those kind of winters. That was epic everywhere in North America. But better than, or, an average winter would be really nice around here. For the snowmobile industry, for the ski industry, you got to get out and play in the snow. The cold temperatures, you keep them. It'd be nice not to dip below zero, but we'll take the snow.
You know what I did this morning?
What's that?
Triple checked that the choppers are where I think they are. Oh, yeah. They're right there, baby. Yeah. Open that closet. There's a little bin on the shelf. Got my scarf, got my gloves, got my hats, and got my choppers.
Yes, sir.
Iron Maiden is at XL Energy Center on October the 22nd. And right now, we want to give away a couple tickets. We need one caller. 651-989-ROCK. One caller on the KQ Talk and Text line. We're going to play a game called Twofer. And if you can come up with twofer correct answers, then by God, you're going to go see Iron Maiden. So right now, 651-989-ROCK. We just need one person to call in and put themselves up on the you know what? Step up. Receive the gauntlet that is the twofer game.
I love this game because you're putting the morning mind against the happy hour mind.
That's
clashing.
That's exactly what you're
different
doing.
Minds clashing.
That's a great way to explain this because we're taking one of Ryder's local barflies versus someone with coffee. Yeah. That's the easy way to explain it.
Hey, Gorman, let me ask you a question. I know you've hung out in Kentucky once or twice,
or 11 years of forced labor. Yes.
All right. Why is it National Kentucky Day? I'm seeing today is National Kentucky Day. I've never heard of such a thing.
Nor have I. National Kentucky Day.
I don't know why. It says here it's National Mashed Potato Day. That I get.
Okay, that I get.
And National Kentucky Day.
They do sell mashed potatoes at Kentucky Fried Chickens.
Very good.
National
They sell some
Kentucky
of the
Day.
best mashed potatoes at Kentucky
It's the
Fried
gravy
Chicken.
that makes it work. Although I think they changed the recipe on the coleslaw. Don't get me started.
Okay, I grew up in the Commonwealth or the uncommon wealth of Kentucky.
Yeah.
Never heard of this, but apparently this is the day Kentucky was approved in the statehood.
Oh.
Okay, good to know.
Happy birthday, Kentucky.
Wow, I look, I love the bluegrass state and I prefer mashed potatoes. It's that simple. I'm going to stick with mashed potato day. Sorry, Kentucky, I love you, but man, come on, man, I can't put gravy on you.
Or can you?
Although it's funny. I do know the state sandwich is called a hot brown. Google that bad boy if you like a hot turkey sandwich covered in melted cheese.
Oh, that does sound good.
I think it could work up here. It's a whole another story for another day.
Yeah, don't look it up in the Urban Dictionary, however.
Do not do that at all. There's a lot of different hot browns, not to be confused with Kentucky Derby winner Big Brown. Okay, now let's put a button on this. Let's get to the phones, Tony. Who do we have?
Eileen from Columbia Heights is ready to be a winner.
Eileen, good morning.
Good morning.
Eileen, give me your favorite band.
I'm going to say Black Crowes.
Oh, look at you. All right, give me your favorite team, any sport.
Well, Vikings, of course.
Of course. Of course. All right. This game is a little something we call twofer, Eileen. Ryder hangs out in dive bars, dingy, dark places that no measure of humanity could ever rescue. And she spends time with folks, and they get to talking. And she asks, she'll walk up to a random barfly and ask them 5 questions. We're going to ask you the same.
Not awkward at all.
We're not awkward at all. Thank you, Ryder. That's where the PBRs help. We're going to ask you, Eileen, 5 questions. We'll get your answers. And if you can match, what is it? She's got to get 2 out of 5. Is that it?
Yeah.
You just got to get the 2 for 2 out of 5. And if so, you'll get Iron Maiden tickets. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. Eileen, name the most iconic ever Minnesota Twin.
Like baseball twin Kirby Puckett.
There you go. Kirby Puckett. Good answer. Here's number 2. Finish this phrase. Deep blank.
Deep sea.
Deep sea. All right. Name a rock band you would want to go on tour with.
A rock band I'd like to go on tour with would be Metallica.
All right. Nice. Yeah. Okay, number 4. What's a body part you would not miss if it was cut off?
My baby toe.
Okay. All right. Okay, finally, name the month where we have the best fishing.
I'm going to say July.
July. All right. Thank you for those answers. Now, Ryder, who is our barfly this morning?
So we chatted with Amy. Amy, I asked her how she paid bills. She said, I'm an entertainer. I said, great.
Perfect. Quotes. My God, right out of Central Casting, this one.
Favorite band is The Doors. Favorite team, of course, Vikings.
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
So, all right.
Let's see how we did.
Here we go. Who's the most iconic Minnesota Twin?
Kirby Puckett.
Yes.
Finish the phrase. Deep
thoughts.
Name a rock band you'd want to go on tour with.
Zeppelin.
What's a body part you wouldn't miss if it was cut off?
A finger.
Come on.
And she made a really inappropriate gesture at me. Name the month with the best fishing.
May.
Damn it!
May is a good month.
Oh, man. Eileen, it started with such promise. You both had Kirby Puckett right out of the gate. You did a great job, though, and I'm sorry to say, just one short of the tickets.
God dang, started off so strong.
Dang it.
Well, Eileen, it's great to chat with you. Thank you so much for trying.
All right, thank you. Have a good day, guys.
See you too.
Come on, Eileen.
I thought that.
You had to, didn't you?
No, you didn't have to.
I wonder if she's wearing overalls like all the girls in that video. Come on, Eileen. Oh, I swear. First ever MTV side boob, that video.
Yeah?
Yeah, you remember when he picks her up and swings her around?
Yeah.
She's not wearing a shirt under those overalls.
Thought it might have been Bananarama, but I think you're right.
They had T-shirts on.
That's right.
Who can even remember these things other than me, of course?
Yes.
October 18th. I don't know what's going to happen today, but I can tell you what happened back in the day. On this day in 1968 at the Olympic Games in Mexico City, Bob Beamon of the United States long jumped his way into history. 29 feet, 2.5 inches. Why is this such a big deal? All right, follow this. In 1928, the record was 26 feet, 0 inches. In 1960, it was 26 feet, 11 inches. Progress in the long jump comes very, very slowly. The morning of Bob Beamon's jump, the record was 27 feet. He jumped 29, 2.5. He beat the record by 2 feet.
Wow.
By 2 feet. It is the greatest leap forward, both literally and figuratively, in sports history.
That's, I'm just looking up things that are 30 feet long. That's half a bowling lane. That's long jumping halfway down to the pins. That doesn't sound as good, but this would resonate, I think, with most people. It's half of the cricket pitch.
That makes it clear.
On this day in 1977, the Yankees defeated the Dodgers in the World Series. What everybody, including a 12-year-old Steve Gorman, was sitting in awe was Reggie Jackson in a World Series clinching game came to bat 3 times. Each time at bat, it was a different pitcher. Each pitcher threw 1 pitch, and Reggie hit all 3 of them out of the park.
Yes, he did.
3 home runs on 3 pitches from 3 different men. That is why they called him Mr. October. The single most awe-inspiring, in-your-face performance in baseball history.
And one of the great looks, drop the bat, jog around the bases of all time.
The absolute best. Mike Torres was a pitcher for the Yankees. He won games 3 and 6. And afterwards, he said, I pitched 2 complete games. A lot of guys think I should have won the MVP.
Shut up.
And that's why we've never heard of him since. Dude, stop.
Yeah,
the man hit 3 home runs in Yankee Stadium off 3 pitches. Go away, Mike Torres.
2 complete games of the World Series is a hell of a
nothing
deal.
To sneeze at.
Yeah.
But that's for your agent to say, not you.
Right. Do you see all those flashes going off when he hit that 3rd home run?
Oh, my God.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. You're listening to the KQ Morning Show. Steve, Zepp, Tony, and Ryder on 92 KQRS.
I don't hear myself. What's happening?
Are you not on there? Plugged in?
Sometimes you got to put the other headphones on.
Who put 2 pair of headphones on?
That was the weirdest moment I'll have today, I hope. I'm like, I'm talking. I don't hear anything. Oh, there's another pair of headphones I've somehow put on my head that aren't connected to anything.
Oh, I bet everyone can relate to that.
Sure. It's like when you come out of the bar and you get in someone else's car and drive home.
Exactly.
Just like that. Like, oops, sorry, man. I didn't realize this was a Corvette. It's Friday, October the 18th. Good morning. morning, everybody. I'm going to get right to it. Lakeville. Good morning, Lakeville, Minnesota.
Lakeville? Nothing good ever came out of Lakeville.
No, you can say that again.
Yeah.
A bunch of delinquents.
I know,
raised
right?
down there in Lakeville. Give me one thing to do in Lakeville this weekend, Ryder.
One thing this weekend? I don't know. Babes is always open.
Yeah, Babes.
So there's that.
Meet some babes at Babes.
I guess so. I never met any babes at Babes.
Wow.
Just my parents.
When you look back on the glory days of Lakeville, is it just teen angst, ennui, bittersweet?
Yes,
I mean, what was happening?
It is. There wasn't anything to do, so we would kind of just drive the circuit, the County Road 50, Highview, Dodd Road, just that little triangle. Over and over and over again.
Sure.
My daughter, only one daughter received a minor for drinking at a house party, and that was in Lakeville. Yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Happened in Lakeville.
All right.
Got a bad reputation, bad influence.
But we still want to say good morning, Lakeville.
Well,
Good morning, Lakeville.
Rock on, Lakeville. Have a great miscreant weekend.
I want to go to a house party in Lakeville.
No kidding. You could spend a lot. You could have worse moments in life than blasting through Lakeville on County Road. What was it? 50?
50. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I got a plan for the weekend. Here's a crazy story. I want to get your thoughts on this. A gentleman in China spent 6 months in jail after he caught his wife sleeping with another man.
Wait, the husband did?
The husband did. Not because he, let's say, went in and kicked the living snot out of the guy or shot him. No. Well, he did. So here's the story real quick. A guy named Lou, he's 33 years old. He's from a city called Shandong. Sorry, just pause for Dong. He's from Shandong. He says, my wife seems to be having a new schedule these days. She's at different times of day. I can't seem to get a hold of her, so he trails her.
Yep.
She follows her into a local hotel, walks into a room, and there she is in bed with another man. Now, Lou does beat the other man. He does beat the guy up right there on the scene. But that's not what sent him to jail. They're having this conversation. The wife is like, okay, I'm going to divorce you anyway. The gentleman in question, the cheating guy, the dude who's with his wife says, hey, man, how about this? How about I just give you some cash? I'll pay you some installments online, and then we'll just put it behind us.
Oh, you should have led with that.
3 online installments.
Yeah, you're paying for no interest.
As compensation for, having slept with his wife.
All right.
And Lou says, yeah, man, thanks. We'll do that. That'll be a part of it. He says, all right, fine. Then he files for divorce. During the proceedings, his wife, during the proceedings, the dude who made him payments filed a complaint, said, hey, this guy extorted me for money.
What the hell, dude? I mean, come on, man. Oh, what a loser. First of all, you banged his wife, then you offered to pay your way out of it.
And then sued him for extortion.
What a loser.
Now, Lou is like, I think that's my ex-wife is behind the whole thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, check this out. Judge sentenced him to 6 months for blackmailing his wife's lover and forcing him to pay financial compensation. 6 months in the joint for accepting a grand total of how much money? $3,300. I thought it was going to be $3 million.
I was thinking,
300 grand, $3,000.
I was thinking at least 6 figures. That seems like a civilized way to take care of this. Now you've got an enemy again in this dude, and you could have cleared it all up for $3,300, and you got away with the wife. I mean, that's not a win in my book, but.
I'm just fascinated by the if we have to put yourself in this guy's shoes for a minute, let me walk a mile in Lou's shoes. If that happens in my life, I don't imagine there's a moment where I'm thinking, you know what's going to make this a little bit better? If this guy gives me some money. I just don't. That'd be that'd be weeks and months later before that even began to make sense to me, because I would be thinking, well, okay, 2 things are going to happen. I'm going to kick the living snot out of this guy, and then I'm going to have a real long talk with my wife. That's going to be unpleasant as hell.
You're in a solid marriage, This one could have been on the rocks anyway. There are different levels, phases of marriages for different people, and if it's he's like, but he cared enough to follow her. A lot of guys I know are like, my wife she's been spending a lot of time playing tennis with her instructor, and they use that as an opportunity to go out and have a little fun themselves. But he cared enough to follow her, to beat the guy up, and then went right to the money. Well, maybe he was broke, down on his luck a little bit.
This is a follow-up to a similar story a few months ago. Last year, a gentleman had the exact same suspicion, and this is in Taiwan. He said, I'm pretty sure my wife's cheating on me. And so, but he was fairly certain it was happening in his own home. He'd go to work and then come home and think. So he set up some security cameras around the house, hidden cameras. Yeah. And lo and behold, boom, caught her in the act. That was what he used for grounds for divorce. He had to prove there was a marital break.
In his own home.
In his own home. The countersuit was invasion of privacy. He was found guilty. Another guy went to the joint for his efforts to prove that his wife was cheating on him.
It's an upside-down world now. I don't know what to think about any of this. Maybe if you're going to sleep with someone's wife, maybe you don't offer the cash up front. A lot of husbands would be like, yeah, get her out of here, man.
That's what Robert Redford did with Demi Moore. We all remember that one.
I didn't see the end of it, but I assume everything turned out great for everyone.
Everything it did. Yeah. They got their debts. They got out of debt. Nice. Woody and Demi, I think they're still together.
I think so.
It worked out great. Boy, those were heady times. A movie like that would come out. What was that movie called? An Indecent Proposal?
Indecent Proposal, yeah.
And it was honest to God water cooler talk for months.
Yeah. What'd you do it?
At a time when a movie could, like Thelma and Louise. How long did we talk about Thelma and Louise? There were movies in the 90s that were, just carried on. Real life stories in the 90s. I still sometimes had the conversation probably 6 months ago where my son said, so O.J. Simpson, he was like a great football player. I'm like, oh, dude, you have no idea. Yeah. He's the juice.
The juice, man.
And that's what it was. We were watching The Naked Gun, and it just turned into this whole thing. He's like, I said, just imagine if Michael Jordan murdered two people. It's no different. He was the biggest. The NFL was the King League in the 70s. He was their most bankable star. Yeah. He's in TV commercials every day. He's a movie star after being a Heisman Trophy winner 2000. It's O.J. Simpson. I said, it's as if Michael Jordan in 1980, or shortly after he retired, just offed a couple people with a knife. And he's, really kind of like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. No, it's the craziest thing you've ever heard.
Right.
How long did we all... And if that happened today, Michael Jordan is now a retired athlete.
Yeah.
6 months from now, we would not still be talking about it every day. It would be a huge story for a little bit. It's just gotten so fast. But stories come up, and they are gone. I mean, here today, gone today.
Right. Yeah, well, you can't even have water cooler conversations about the movies or what you're watching on television because everyone's watching something different. It's so scattered now across so many streaming services.
Completely insane. My wife and I have been watching, we just finished on Netflix, Monsters. It's about the Lyle and Eric Menendez. It's not a documentary. It's a fictionalized, it's a 9-episode series about the Menendez brothers who very famously killed their parents in 1989. And that story was months and as it turned out, years. Yeah. It was 6 years or 7 years before they ultimately went to prison, where they still are. And it was fascinating because we were watching it, and at some point I said, what happened that we stopped talking about these guys? Well, what happened was OJ.
Yeah.
That's right. Point. We went from this story to an even bigger story, and then in the series, as you're watching it, they were housed at LA County Jail together. Yeah. OJ was arrested, and he went in, and they put him in a cell right next to Eric Menendez, and they were talking. And I Googled it, and it's true.
Yeah, what did they chat about?
I mean, it's just the wildest thing. So talking about a story that for years was on everybody's mind. Well, tonight on ABC, on a 2020 special, there is a Menendez Brothers, a look at what's happened in the 30 years since and what's going on right now, and it's kind of mind-blowing. Juju Chang, who is a producer and part of that documentary with ABC News, will discuss that with us in just a few moments. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
Good Friday morning. It is October the 18th. Tonight on 2020, anchor Juju Chang will be reporting some updated information on the Menendez brothers case. Lyle and Eric Menendez in 1989. Here are the facts. It's not disputable that they killed their parents, but the trial, the two trials, were pretty sensational. One of those stories that held America and the world's fascination for years. These guys have been in the joint now for 35 years, pretty much, since their arrest. And there's a real strong movement led by family and friends to get them out or at least get a new trial. And that is the subject of tonight's 2020 special. Juju Chang joins us on the KQ Morning Show. Juju, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're great. Thanks so much for calling in. It's a rock station, so I got to ask first things first. Favorite band?
Oh, gosh. U2, I think. And I'm actually speaking with the drummer this afternoon. He's kind of an amazing guy.
Yes, please give Larry our love. And then and then one more question we ask all of our guests. Favorite team, any sport. You got one team. Who you cheering for?
Yankees. Sorry.
Oh, wow. Sorry for last night. Okay.
All
right.
Exactly.
To tonight's business. We've been talking about the Menendez Brothers. I just watched the Monsters series on Netflix, which, of course, is a dramatization. You never know exactly how. I Googled a million things. Did that happen? Is that real?
I'm sure, yeah.
Right, but you're dealing with the real thing. There's an update just this week. Tell me exactly what happened in L.A., because I guess a group of family members got a lot of people's attention saying it's time to rethink this whole case.
Absolutely. It was an unprecedented move by the family members, 20 of them, Menendez family members from both sides of the family, Jose's and Kitty's side, led by the 92-year-old matriarch, Joan Vandermolen. And she literally, was emotional. Her voice was cracking, and she said she was basically pleading for the brothers' innocence, or not innocence, rather, but for their freedom. Mm-hmm. And I had sat down with her daughter, Karen, and she told me that her mother, Kitty's sister, has been in touch with them over the years for decades and has at times had weekly phone calls with them and really believes that they did a monstrous thing, yes, but that they were desperate boys trying to escape, in her words, unspeakable abuse.
It's hard to explain. I said earlier, too, I have two kids in their 20s that don't know anything about this. It's almost impossible to explain to someone of that age what the monoculture was and how big this story was. For years, these guys went from, just two kids in Beverly Hills to almost celebrity status in a very bizarre way.
Sure. I mean, they were absolutely the definition of infamy, but I'm telling you, your kids might be a little bit older, but the 15-year-olds in my life are obsessed with this case. They're all watching it on TikTok clips and coming up with their own theories. It's fascinating.
It's really astonishing to think about. So where is the district attorney in L.A.? What is his response to the family now coming out? As you said, a pretty unprecedented move.
Yeah, so I sat down with the LA District Attorney last week, and he told me something that he had never said before publicly, which is that he doesn't believe that the Menendez brothers deserve to die in prison. Now, he's the one who gets to make the recommendation, or not, to a judge. He told me that he would do that in October, so we're talking about in the next couple of weeks. And if he makes that resentencing recommendation, it would be for time served, because had there been a manslaughter option, so the second jury, you'll remember, they only had the choice between first-degree murder, which is life in prison without parole, or innocent. And clearly they weren't innocent. They had confessed to the crime and confessed to a brutal shotgun murder of their parents. So the jury went with first-degree murder. And so now the DA, 35 years later, is saying that had there been a manslaughter option, they would have been out in 20 or 25 years. And it's really about, do you believe that these brothers, what they've been saying for 35 years, that they were the victims of abuse, is a mitigating factor in this case?
Yeah, safe to say if that trial, if it happened now, a whole very different approach, I think, generally, different response from
Absolutely.
people. Which is
then the jurors were saying they didn't think fathers would do this to their sons, that boys could not be raped. Literally, that's what the prosecutor said.
Do you think there was some truth to it's suggested in the docu-series, not the documentary, but the series, in the wake of what happened with Rodney King, with what happened with especially the OJ trial, that their goose was pretty much cooked in that second trial? Like the powers that be were not about to allow the suggestion that they might walk.
It's such a savvy question. Absolutely. Everyone I talk to, and now, mind you, I talked to Mark Garagos, their defense attorney. I talked to the DA. I talked to family members. I talked to Rosie O'Donnell, who had a lot to say because she's become very close friends with them. Everyone says that the O.J. Simpson trial really made a difference in the second trial for the Menendez brothers, because the DA was up against the ropes, and he had to have a victory. And so they excluded a lot of, if not most of, the sexual abuse testimony from the second trial, and really we're given a binary choice between first degree and not. And they think that, had it not been for the OJ verdict, that perhaps they would have had a less heated climate.
Juju Chang is with us on the KQ Morning Show tonight at 8 p.m. on ABC, a special episode, updated information on the Menendez brothers. I don't want to take away too much of the fire from the show, but what did you find in researching this story? What was something that was really surprising to you, or that you just had no idea was an element in what's happening right now?
I think what I forgot was just how much contemporaneous accounts there were. The cousins who testified in the first trial that the boys confided in them that this was happening. And then there's this new evidence of the letter that was written by Eric Menendez when he was 18, just months before the murder, that this was still happening, that he was being assaulted by his father. And then, of course, there's that new Menudo band member, right, who's come forward and said, after decades of shame, I'm coming forward to say that Jose Menendez molested me in that same Beverly Hills home. And so that, again, corroborates and substantiates and are contemporaneous accounts of that period. So that part to me is what's fascinating. And we know now, post-Me Too and post-Catholic Church scandal, 35 years later, we know more about trauma and how trauma affects people's acting out.
Certainly does. Juju Chang from 2020 tonight, Menendez Brothers. Thanks so much for taking the time. I'll be watching. This is still a very fascinating story, to say the very least. Thanks
Absolutely.
So much. Thanks so
and
much,
the other
Juju.
part that's great. The other part that's great is we have a lot of Barbara Walters from that iconic interview, and we show more that has never been seen before. It's really fascinating to watch the full context.
Wow. Right on. Thanks so much, Juju.
My pleasure.
See ya.
Wow. Well, I mean, if Babs is showing up. So, and then Mom did what?
Allowed it and it turned a blind eye, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Well, they had it coming. I had no idea. I had no idea. Those poor boys.
Well, if their allegations are true, she did have it coming.
All right.
I'll say that. I'll say that in a split second. So
the proof then is in the...
I don't think anybody. There's no way to prove what they're saying is true. The question is just there's certainly a lot of smoke with their allegations from family members and from, they're saying they were writing people letters. I mean, the other option is this was a masterminded plan that they spent months dropping the breadcrumbs because they just wanted to go. The whole thing to me is the best case scenario is these guys were just a mess. You know what I mean? Like there was something going on in that house where they were not certainly raised to be productive members of society to begin with. They were sideways, very tilted lives to begin with.
Well, they have plenty of life left to get out, write some books, have a reality show, perhaps end up back on Rodeo Drive.
I can't begin to imagine.
Flourish. Oh, they're going to be celebrities. They already are. My God. How much would you pay for their autograph? 1,000? 100,000? They're going to be at all the parties, backstage, Coachella on the stage.
Yeah. I wouldn't wish that on anybody myself. 35 years incarcerated, and you get out, and the world actually wants to follow you around. I don't predict the best, happiest ending for them is miserable, no matter what you do. Yeah. And I'm not saying I think that they're okay or that I'm simply saying that there's a lot of going on. If what they say is true, then yes, you shouldn't kill people, and yes, 35 years later, take another shot at life.
And they would have gone to jail. I mean, had it been a manslaughter charge, they would have been convicted.
Exactly. No question about it.
It's not like they would have been sprung, but they may not have gotten a life sentence on murder one. And, I don't know. I'm trying to care about this. I think OJ, golfed right till the very end, so why not let him out?
That's a different story. It's a very different story. Totally different circumstances.
I thought OJ was the one that... Isn't OJ the one that pulled the trigger?
He is the one
on their parents. I thought you said he was there in the kitchen. with the shotgun.
No,
because the parents had taken some memorabilia of OJ's.
How many times do I have to say this? He was in the study with a candlestick.
That's right. That's what it was.
Come on, Colonel Mustard, get it together.
I know.
So as we are approaching winter, it's a bit of an odd story to think, but most of Minnesota is facing extreme fire danger. It's very dry, very strong winds. I mean, yesterday, Chauncey and I are out walking. walking, and it was crazy gusty winds.
Yeah.
It felt great, fall weather. But the fact of the matter is 85 of Minnesota's 87 counties are under a red flag warning. Fires can, quote, spread quickly and easily progress out of control. So we also talked about the fact that the winter forecast is for more precipitation than last year, certainly more than average. Yeah. So it's going to get wet, but until it gets wet, it's really, really dry.
Don't throw the cigarette butts out the window.
Please do not do that. Most places in Minnesota right now, you're not allowed to have a campfire. Fire pits are right out.
Yep.
Please be careful.
No burning the leaves this fall, that kind of stuff.
No, nothing like that at all. Which brings to mind this story from Germany this week. In Stadtallendorf, Germany, a state-of-the-art building. It opened last year. It's the pride of a small community in Western Germany. It burned to the ground because, as it turned out, it had not been equipped with a fire alarm. It's a brand-new complex in this little town, a beautiful building. Less than a year ago, the city unveiled it, and it is truly the pride of the community. Did I mention it's the new fire station?
Oh, my God. Aren't those 24/7? I don't know. Maybe some of these volunteer fire departments are not 24/7 staffed. But damn. Well,
a vehicle, a fire started in a vehicle and then quickly spread throughout the whole building. There's not a smoke alarm or a fire alarm in the fire station. It is, again, it's the newest fire station in the whole country, and every other element is state-of-the-art futuristic technology. Yeah. At no point did anyone think about a smoke and or heat detector system.
There's going to be some meetings about this.
10 fire engines were destroyed.
Oh, my God.
No injuries, but 170 firefighters, including some from nearby towns, had to come in and get the blaze under control. It was that insane.
Holy cow.
The modern, innovative, state-of-the-art, apparently it was not legally required to have a fire alarm because it belonged to the local municipality. Therefore, it's classified as a building holding equipment and not a fire station. It's just a red tape thing. Like in all the checks and all the little boxes to tick, there's just not one that says fire alarm. And they never thought they would need it.
Who wants to take that press conference? Bill, are you going to be Dieter? Dieter, you want to take that one? I don't know how it works over there in Germany, but, to build these fire stations, these municipal things, you've got to get levies passed often, and extra taxes have to be raised. I wonder how that vote's going to go.
My gosh. Well, what they're saying is they want to rebuild it as quickly as possible. Yeah. For local morale, like everyone's so down about this. Yeah. We've got to show that, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, we can apply a smoke alarm to the new building.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of them in there. I bet they're gonna be over alarmed. But yeah, oh God, that's embarrassing.
I for one am looking forward to. I can't wait till they remove this thing, because let me just say this: I'm a fire pit guy. I love a fire. I will. In fact, I'm not much of a social media poster on Instagram, but if you go through my Instagram feed over the years, every fall, all of a sudden it just starts. And by it, I mean the fire pit posts. Yeah. Because I'm the kind of guy who likes to have a fire pit, put on a little music, and maybe a tumbler of bourbon or two.
Perhaps.
And at some point, I'm like, I just have to film this and put it on Instagram. And then the next day I wake up and sometimes I delete it because I'm like, why am I posting on Instagram drunk at night a fire? No one wants to stare at this fire except me. But will I stare at logs burning for hours? Oh, you're damn straight I will.
Oh, when we were up at Cragen's on the TV, I did not have the fireplace in my room, but I had the television. There were 6 channels of just logs burning. And I was flipping through them. I'm like, no, I like that one. Oh, well, that one's pretty good. Well, the one on the beach is kind of nice. Well, I think I'll nap to this one. Very nice. Well, you're here in the Midwest in the fall. That's the thing. I was up in Princeton last weekend, and every drive-through neighborhood that you drove through there had the backyard fire going, had the fire pit in the driveway, but it's pretty crispy out. I guess not the time to do it.
I did not watch the 6 channels of fire pits at Cragen's, but did go out and rock a fire pit for a few hours. Right. And that was really nice. But all it did was, it just was like an appetizer. It was like, oh yeah, come on. Just drop the temperature a few more degrees. Yeah. Let's go, baby. I'm ready to burn some stuff. When it's safe, and when I realize I'm in a county that's been given the all clear. Yes, the fire pits will be coming in hard and heavy.
And it's Disco Inferno.
I'm looking very forward to it. November's a good time for fire pits. November's a great time for rock and roll shows.
Yeah.
Like one at First Avenue, November 15th. I'm playing First Ave next month, Friday, November 15th, with Golden Smog, a revolving door of drummers for many, many years, and I'm just happy to be the guy that they got my number this time around and said, hey, come play this gig.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. It's the KQ Morning Show. Steve, Zepp, Tony, and Ryder on Minnesota's classic rock. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. That was Def Leppard with the second greatest song ever called Photograph. Sorry, I'm going Ringo number one always. Yeah. The first 45 I ever purchased with my own money was Ringo Starr's Photograph.
I know. Wasn't he racking up hits before any of the other Beatles solo-wise?
First 5 years of the 70s, more top 10 singles than any other Beatle. Well, they were writing his songs for her. They were like, we got to help Ringo out.
Yeah, right, exactly. John said something about giving him a writing credit on a song that he didn't necessarily write.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to see him drumming in, I don't know, what would be like up north Minnesota, the resort area
It's
of
a famous,
England.
yeah, he said it's a Dick Cavett interview in like 1971.
Yes.
And he goes, well, Ringo's had some success. And he goes, yeah, one thing we still agree on is we've got to make sure Ringo doesn't end up back, playing the clubs. And I'm like, he's got $1 billion. I think he's going to be fine. She's so sweet. They're like, hey, we got to take care of the guy.
Good to have some friends.
Yeah, it's good to have friends, especially when they're the Beatles. We got a lot of friends out here listening to the show this morning, and I imagine that a few of our listeners would like to go see a band called Golden Smog Friday, November 15th at First Avenue. Yours truly manning not only the drums, but wait for it, also cymbals. I play both, Zep. I play drums and cymbals.
Not at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah. Right foot, left foot, right hand. It's all moving, hitting stuff.
Where's all that talent when we need it in the morning? Come on, man. You just left yourself wide
You don't
open.
expect me to do two things in this world of ours.
I'm excited. I'm excited that you're in Golden Smog. We go back so many years with that band here in Minnesota.
Sure.
And in fact, a friend of mine that's going to be at the show, I'm going to be at the show. We were texting about it a couple of days ago, reminded me that we watched them on Conan O'Brien, Stone to the Gills, back in 1996, I believe. Because remember that? We were at his place just getting stoned. I'm like, yeah, Golden Smog was on Conan O'Brien, the local guys.
I too remember watching that. And to me, it was like, oh, that's cool. That's Gary and Perlman from Jayhawks. I'm like, oh, that's Dan from Soul Asylum. Yes. Hey, that's the guy. That's Tweety from Wilco. And I was like, holy crap, they got themselves a bona fide alt-rock supergroup, alt-country alt-rock supergroup right there. Yeah. And they made some really good records along the way as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Good morning, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Wait, not west, not south, not park?
We're giving it to every square inch of St. Paul. All the neighborhoods, all the burgs, if you will.
Yeah, I lived over there for 5 years, right down in 7th. Sheffer there, right by Bennett's. And Bennett's was basically my dining room and kitchen.
What years are we talking?
So this would have been 2004, 5 to probably about 2009 or 10.
Yeah, right.
And I moved back over to Minnie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was over by, God dang it, I lived over off Lexington for a few years as well. I rented a place over there by Como.
I dig St. Paul. I think I said this not that long ago, but my buddy. So I have a I'm in like 9 bands. My band Trigger Hippie and my band Bagmen, bassist in both Nick Govrick, a St. Paul kid. My buddy Nicky G, and when I called him one day, I said, hey, you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to Minnesota. I'm gonna host the KQ Morning Show, and he being a local is like, huh? Yeah, right. And we were talking, and I said, yeah, so it's in Minneapolis. I said, I'm going to find a place near the station when I first got to town. And he said, you're going to end up in St. Paul. And I said, I'm sorry, what? He goes, you're going to end up in St. Paul. I said, why do you say that? He goes, because I know you and I know St. Paul. And trust me, when it's time to, when you get your long-term place, like if you're going to buy, you're going to settle in, you're going to dig in, you're going to, do a long, it's St. Paul. All right. And he has maintained that. And every time I'm there, I'm like, I kind of like it over here.
Of course you love St. Paul.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
St. Paul's
we love
pretty
people
happening.
from St. Paul, Tony.
Yes, we do. Quality humans.
Yeah.
Home of Cecil's, Tiffany Lounge, the Nook. Mickey's
Tiffany.
Diner's now open again.
Yeah, that's right. I'm excited about that.
Oh, damn.
It's good stuff. Earlier this week, I was hanging out, speaking with Mike Campbell of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Guitarist Mike Campbell, the man that co-wrote most of those songs, Tom Petty's right-hand guy. We were discussing the release of a new deluxe edition of Long After Dark, which is out and available everywhere today.
Let's start with Long After Dark, this re-release. It's funny because anybody on the outside thinks of that album and thinks, great record, top to bottom, perfect, no notes. And then, of course, I'm reading about the fact that there was a lot of songs left off and there was some second guessing since the release. And I would imagine even at the time, what do you remember about the conversations about those choices? What stayed on? What didn't make the cut?
Well, it was quite a while ago. All I remember about the choices of the songs was it came down to the sequencing. Mm-hmm. When you sequence a record, you try to have an arc to it where it's up and then settles down the right way. And you don't want 3 songs in the key of A, or you don't want, 4 ballads in a row. So it was all just getting the flow of the album to work, as a piece. And so the ones that were left off just didn't fit into that program. An album is a program, a movie, what you want to call it. And we've always spent a lot of time on sequencing the songs, so it felt like you weren't bored from start to finish.
When you go back and listen, if you hear something like Never Be You or Don't Make Me Walk the Line, stuff that didn't make the record, do you have the kind of brain? Do you remember specific days in the studio, tracks, or is it more of a ethereal memory of a feeling or vibe?
It's ethereal at this point, Steve.
Yeah.
I can remember last week, and that's about as far as I can go. I don't remember any specifics. I know that we had fun making that record.
Yeah.
And, I like that track, Keeping Me Alive. That's my favorite of the leftover tracks. But, all the albums end up having some stuff that doesn't make the cut, and eventually it comes out like this, on some kind of special edition.
Sure. Going back to the first album, was it always that way? Were there always 2, 3, 4 extras at least?
Yeah, not many because we were lazy, As we went on, there'd be more songs than we needed because we started writing more. But early on, it was just like the first 10 or 12 songs we got, we're done.
But, it's funny because if I listen to those records, there's no weak link. They're all really good. And they do serve the purpose you described of getting the flow of the album together. Did you feel like you had, I think, discernment, just taste, trusting your gut? It's almost like you never pursued an idea that wasn't worth pursuing.
Well, thank you for that. I'm sure that if you look closer, you'd find some ideas that were X'd at the beginning. But Jimmy Iovine was our producer, and he was pretty hard on the songs, and we had to impress him first and then impress ourselves. But we do follow our instincts, or Tom and us. Our intention was true,
Again, from the outside looking in, of a few things I would say about the Heartbreakers, never questionable intent. I mean, the hardest thing in the world to me would be to maintain that throughout. And that's a thread from album 1 to the very end in my mind with you guys. And so really, I guess I'm just saying, well done. That's not easy.
Well, thank you very much. It wasn't much struggle. It was just intuitive. We didn't really overthink it too much.
I think it speaks to the general, just the relationships within the band, too. Obviously, you guys had a respect for each other and for each other's strengths, and talents, if you will.
Yeah, you got to respect your team.
Yeah, no, trust is chemistry is really, I've said this a billion times, but, somebody who's never been in a band doesn't understand the importance of that word. And that's one thing that you guys, even with a couple of lineup changes, the right guy always came in because chemistry always seemed to be right there front and center to me.
Well, that's where the marriage analogy comes in. It's like being married to someone for a long time. You have to have a chemistry and you have to have a mutual respect for it to carry on. And the Heartbreakers, we were kind of brothers. We came from the same area in Gainesville and grew up together and became successful together. So we had that bond,
How was the first couple of years in LA? I mean, that's a long way on the I-10 heading west, man. When you guys got there, did you feel like you had landed on Mars?
Yeah. Well, as Stan used to say, it was rednecks in space. We were, we were like so out of touch with the LA scene. We'd come from Florida where things are a little more laid back. And we were a little overwhelmed at first. It took us a while to figure out what we were doing, but it's a big cultural shock. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Back then, it was a big difference between Florida and LA.
And not only a big difference, you couldn't get online to research it. You just had to go.
Yeah, it was a whole different world, but I kind of like it better that way.
Yeah, man. Nothing like having to, move fast on your feet, keep your eyes open, no expectations.
Yeah.
When you think back to all the albums the Heartbreakers put out, is there a pecking order?
I don't think about it that deeply too often, but it's my perspective will be different from listeners' perspective. My perspective is I still love the very first album. To me, when I hear that, I hear the kinetic connection, and we were finding out who we were. Mm-hmm. And there's that element of surprise in that. And then, the follow-up album was pretty good. And then Torpedoes was commercially, Damn the Torpedoes, big breakthrough. So that's a big high point. Free Fallin' was a high point. It was Tom's solo record, though I co-produced it and a lot of the Heartbreakers played on it. But as I look back, there were albums that were bigger hits than other ones. But I like All My Children.
Sure. I like the answer about the first one, though, because I think with any great band, you go back to the first record and it's more apparent over time. You can always tell, like, oh, they had it all. They might not have understood it yet, but it was all there, like that potential and that vitality is impossible to replicate as a first time.
Yeah, well, it's like the first time with sex, too. Mm-hmm. It's like there's always that moment that, or the first time you do drugs, it never feels like that good again, except the first time.
Yeah.
Music is a little deeper than that. There were great high points after that first album. But I have an affinity to that first album because what you said, the discovery, we were discovering what we were and finding our sound and finding our, vibe. And I still hear that when I hear those songs like American Girl or Breakdown. There's a sparkle in the air. They're figuring it out as we're hearing it,
Yeah.
Joke,
Yeah, that's, it gives me goosebumps. I know exactly that feeling. It's just fantastic. Okay, Heartbreakers Beach Party. I've never heard of this before. I just watched the trailer. What in the world? So from 1984, Cameron Crowe hopped on the road with you guys for a while, and this was his first ever time behind the camera. How long was he with you? How long did this thing take to get it all shot?
I think it was, the live stuff was probably spread over several months. Mm-hmm. I think he put it together in a couple of weeks from little interviews and bits and pieces on the video set if you got lucky, and then some gigs like at Winterland and us on the bus, just being young Florida boys, hitting the big time kind of and y'all about it and, dream coming true. That whole thing is in there. It's kind of funky that I just saw it the other day. I hadn't seen it in years. And not many people have ever seen it. It's a cute little film. It really shows us in our youthful exuberance, especially Stan. Stan's a riot. He's every time the camera's on him, he says something funny.
Right.
And there's some good live stuff where we were a good band. I look back and I go, yeah, those guys are pretty good. At the time, you don't think about it. You're just blazing through. I kind of liked the love that was in it. You could tell that we really loved each other and we were really happy to do what we did. And that comes across.
I'm glad to hear you say that comes across. And that's more important than, if you look at that band and go, hey, man, we had it going on, then I'll take your word for it.
We're pretty damn good looking back then, I must say.
It's amazing how that works. Do you remember knowing anything about Cameron Crowe? I guess Fast Times had already been out, but he didn't direct it. He wrote it, and he had a bunch of Rolling Stone pieces, I guess.
Yeah, we knew who the journalists were, and Cameron had done a couple of little pieces on us, so we were familiar with him. And he fit right in. He was a real musical guy, and we got along really well. Mm-hmm. Like one of the gang, he was. We weren't intimidated by him at all, but we knew who he was, and he's very talented. As he went on to do some great things,
Yeah, he's done okay for himself. That's very true. So let's talk about the Dirty Knobs.
Dirty Knobs. Oh yeah, that's my main thing right now. We have lots of songs. We're having a blast. We finally got a lineup that really works. I'm really. It's like chapter 2 of my life, Mm-hmm. And I'm proud of what I've done, but I'm really proud of what I'm doing now. It's a whole new thing. And
your drummer's not bad. You got Steve back in the fold. That was exciting to see.
Well, we had a pretty good drummer. Matt ran off with AC/DC. So.
See, that's not the problem when AC/DC calls and gets in the way of a good plan. It's just like them.
It was his dream band to be like me joining the Beatles, So he got his dream, and
sure.
He said, "Can I have my chair back?" And yeah, I think so. So now he's one of the best ever,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mike, I was thinking about you last week. I saw Jeff Lynne's ELO tour for the first time ever seeing him live. Between the opening act and ELO, it was just a series of songs that Jeff has produced or been on in any other way. And you were on most of them as well. And I just sat there and thought about what a legacy he has and all the different people that have played a part in each other's story. And you've been in a lot of great rooms when a lot of really iconic stuff went down. I guess it's a testament to your talent and your ability, but you're also obviously a good hang.
I'm also a very lucky guy. Luckiest guy in the world. But
yeah.
I mean, you probably wouldn't like working with Jeff Lynne because he likes to do the drums one at a time. But
I've heard that. Is that true?
It's absolutely true. He will record the band if you really push him, but he prefers to build it up from a beat, put the snare on by itself, put the toms on. It's kind of fun. I mean, you probably would enjoy it, but it's not like a performance. It's more like a painting.
Right.
So good at it. I mean, I learned so much from Jeff. He is one of the most brilliant composers and producers. And I saw the ELO show, the last tour, not this one. And it was just like listening to a CD. It's like everything is perfect. He just gets all the vocals and the sounds together. And he's really fun to work with. He works really fast, which is nice.
Yeah, that's almost counter. I wouldn't expect it to be fast, knowing what a perfectionist he is. But I guess if he knows what he's going for, he certainly knows how to get it.
Yeah, we would start a song on Full Moon Fever with Jeff producing. We would start a song in the afternoon, and by dinner, it was finished, ready to mix. Like we'd never done that before. Like, wait a minute, we have to slave over this and get to hate it first. And got to hate it. So
yeah, right. Well, it certainly worked. We play Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers on KQRS every day, multiple times a day. And, on the morning show, we take a break. We play a couple songs, and there's only a handful of artists that at least once a week, a song will be playing, and somebody on the show will say, that sounds like it just came out, or it still works. It's just as fresh as ever. And it's always Heartbreaker songs because regardless of how they were produced, you captured the vibe ultimately. And I think that's what makes songs live forever. There's nothing stale in any of those tracks.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. I'm proud of them, but I think it also has to do with not just the production and the recording and the sounds, but the songwriting themselves.
Sure.
I'm a great writer, and he wrote some great songs with me. And I think, in my opinion, the production and sounds, we worked hard to get those right. But the main thing I think that keeps us valid is the quality of the songwriting. Mm-hmm. Say, for instance, Refugee, which is relevant now. The lyrics he came up with were so simple but direct, and you can interpret them a lot of different ways. So I'm real proud of those.
We'll certainly agree with that. The songs are, I always say if you got a Mount Rushmore of American singer-songwriters, Tom's one of the four. He's either one, two, three, or four, but he's on that mountain, to be sure, up there with Buddy Holly, and you can pick the other two, I think.
I'm up there, too.
Yeah, you are. I'll put you up there.
A lot of them songs, were my songs that he wrote.
Of course. I don't tell you what it feels like to be in a world without Tom Petty. He wasn't in my life, but as a fan, he certainly was. But for 7 years, you've moved on, and that's it's just, I'm happy to know you're staying so busy. It was really cool to see you hop up with Fleetwood Mac of all things. Unexpected, but that looked cool. I didn't see the shows, but I saw all the videos. That had to be one of those, I never thought this would happen moments.
Yeah. How did I get here?
Yeah.
Something now, too. Me and Ben are doing this thing called Life is a Carnival. That's Martin Scorsese revisiting The Last Waltz. We've been rehearsing, started the last 2 days, learning all those band songs with different singers. And that's quite an adventure, too. So I've been real lucky. These things have fallen in my lap. That rhythm section, I just look up and go, wow, I'm playing with these guys.
Who is the rhythm section on that?
On Fleetwood Mac, it was Mick and John.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the Scorsese thing again. No, Fleetwood.
It's Terrence is a drummer, a New Orleans guy. And some other guys.
Yeah. Terrence is an old buddy of mine.
Oh, there you go. He's amazing. What a great guy. He's great attitude. So they're all really talented. And it's going to be like going to sea on the boat with a bunch of rusty old sailors,
Well, I mean, good thing you're from Florida. You'll figure that part out. Everybody okay back in Florida?
Well, you mean my family?
Yeah. Anybody you still got back there? They've had a rough couple of weeks, man.
Yeah, I have a few cousins. Stan lives back there now, and Randall Marsh, a drummer from Mudcrutch, lives down by Tampa. He survived the hurricane. I have a few cousins I keep in touch with, but not much more than that. Kind of moved on from Florida.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, thanks for taking the time, Mike. I know you're a busy man. We appreciate it. And I say this very sincerely. Thanks for all the music because, man, it keeps us on the air. Seriously.
Well, thank you. And, it's funny because I saw the thing. Your interviewer will be Steve. They didn't tell me it was you.
Oh, really?
It was nice to see you again. Doing that tour we did together. And you're a fabulous drummer yourself.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you saying that. I loved watching you guys. I'd go to the soundboard most nights and I would just get mad at Steve. That's the steadiest. I was like, come on, man, just pull one back or push somewhere. And I never caught him doing any of it. He was amazing.
All drummers are funny guys.
Well, you better be. If it doesn't come out funny, it comes out in another way, sideways. So,
Keep up the good work, and I really appreciate you playing our music on your show.
You got it, man.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. You're listening to the KQ Morning Show. Steve, Zepp, Tony, and Ryder on 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Good Friday morning. It is October the 18th. And before we go any further, it's important to let you know that Motley Crue just announced a brand new Las Vegas residency going down at Dolby Live at Park MGM next spring. We want to send you. One winner will score a trip to Vegas, including round-trip air, a 2-night stay at Park MGM, and 2 tickets to Motley Crue, the Las Vegas residency. 10 runner-up winners will get Motley Crue's new EP, Canceled, on vinyl, plus the Dr. Feelgood 35th Anniversary Limited Edition box set. Text the national keyword drums to 95819 for a chance to win. Get on the stick to see Motley Crue in Las Vegas. How about that?
Rockin', man. I'd do Crue again. I've seen them many times over the years. And you think, would I go to another Crue show? Yeah, in Vegas.
Yeah, you could do worse than Vegas and the Crue, to be sure. It is 9 o'clock. Let's get to it. The top 5 at 9. Here we go. Tomorrow night, the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony will take place. Foreigner at long last going in. They have got, let's see, Foreigner's current singer, Kelly Hansen, Demi Lovato, Kelly Clarkson, Red Hot Chili Peppers drummer Chad Smith, and Slash among people involved just in the Foreigner induction part of the night.
Wow.
It's a whole lot of people going to be up there cheering on that band. Lou Gramm, keyboardist Al Greenwood, singer Lou Gramm, in case anyone's wondering. Keyboardist Al Greenwood and bassist Rick Willis will accept their honor. Sammy Hagar, the induction, will be the man handling the induction ceremony.
He can handle that.
Yeah, he can. 2 members of the original lineup will not be there. Mick Jones, who's battling Parkinson's, and drummer Dennis Elliott, who's battling Dennis Elliott. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, everybody's always a little peed off at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
They charge your family a lot to be there. Like, they don't just give you a guest list. You got to pay for any extra people, even if you're being inducted. Sometimes they don't allow artists to pick their own. The person that's going to induct you, you don't get to select. I mean, they'll just assign, like, say, Steve Miller. They were like, hey, the Black Keys are going to induct you. Yeah, and he said, I'm sorry, who? Things like that happen. But this is a new one for me. Dennis Elliott, drummer for Foreigner, said, I'm not going. He put this online. We were finally given the schedule Wednesday night, which is 2 days ago, and it is not to our satisfaction, so we're staying home.
Oh, Dennis. Yeah, well,
buddy.
You'll be supremely missed. I had no idea who the drummer for Foreigner was.
I didn't either. We all know his work. Yeah, my God, those first 4 albums alone. You know every song. But anyway, that's going down tomorrow night. You can watch it live. I think they have the stream set up, I believe. There'll be an edited televised version down the road. It's always worth a look, to be sure. Number 4 on your top 5 at 9. Snowbirding. We all know what snowbirding is. People from, let's say, Minnesota. In the winter, they head down south, get away. Gen Z is now the Gen Z generation. Those who have jobs and a little bit of extra cash are doing what they call glow birding. Yeah, they're not retirees escaping the snow. They're young people working jobs that can be worked from anywhere. Remote work. they're glow birding. They're going to Phoenix, Scottsdale, Hilton Head. Some are going to, beaches in Spain and Portugal. And of course, because they're, Gen Z people, they're posting about it constantly. TikTok videos, Instagram posts. Glow birding comes under they say it's wellness travel.
Why not?
Don't be weird about it, but I'm all for it. Lead the charge. Go for it. Why can't you?
Yep.
I ran into a 27-year-old woman at the airport who was doing just this sort of thing. I said, but we're having a friendly chat. Where's home base? She said, literally, I don't have a home base. I just, jet around, grab Airbnbs here and there, and just work wherever I feel like working.
Nice.
She was on her way to Florida, St. Augustine, to hang out for a couple of weeks and work from there. Just because, why not?
Just because, why not? If you can, do
it.
If you can't, teach.
Yes.
Isn't that the way that goes?
Right.
Number 3 on your top 5 at 9. From one group of white blobs to another, environmental authorities in Canada are a little concerned because along the beaches of Newfoundland, unidentified white blobs have been washing ashore since sometime last month. White masses that range from the size of, say, a coin to a dinner plate are showing up in beaches all over Newfoundland and Labrador. Some people are saying these blobs could be ambergris or another fluids that originate from whales. That's what I'm reading. Fluids originating from whales. I don't know, like we used to make blubber and candle wax out of whale.
Right.
I don't know. But this is still a mystery substance under investigation. Here's some Canadian friends discussing what's happening up there.
Doughy. Smells like very strong smell of vegetable oil off it. I had environmental response. Coast Guard came out and took some samples there for a couple of days ago. And they haven't gotten anything back on it.
Now, this is shocking and would be a concern if it wasn't happening in Newfoundland.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Taste it and find out what it is.
Yeah.
It smells like vegetable oil. How bad could it be? Did a Wesson liner sink out to shore somewhere?
That's what happened.
Is this what's happening here? But that's such a fascinating accent too. That's you can tell like the difference from Newfoundland to Ireland is not that far.
Well, just a touch of inbred. Yeah.
Just a got to get those eyes a little closer together.
Yeah.
Number 2 on your top 5 at 9. Oh, good gracious me. We are 2 days away from the Detroit Lions coming to U.S. Bank Stadium. These are 2 members of the best division in football thus far.
Right.
The black and blue division, the 4 teams in the entire league with the highest point differential, Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago. Right there. The division is 17-5. By far. I mean, kicking ass over everybody else. And now you got the Lions coming to town. This is the first, it's funny. When the season started, there were a few games that we thought these are some big games. So far, it's just been a cakewalk for the Vikings, if you will. This is, however, regardless of what you thought was going to happen, based on what has happened, either way, this is a huge game. The spread, Vikings 1.5-point favorites at home, which tells you Vegas thinks this is a either-or game.
Yeah, it's a pick 'em. 7 weeks in, one game does not define a season, but we're going to find out a lot about the Vikes. And I don't think Detroit's going to one way or the other on this. I mean, they're just a solid team, but we'll find out a lot about the Vikes this weekend. And I was excited about the game, but it's going to be sunny and 80, so I'll look forward to hearing all about it from you folks on Monday morning, how it went. I'll watch the highlights. But I'm not sitting in on a sunny 80 day watching a freaking football game.
Nor I'm not going to do that either. That's why I'm going to be sitting at the 50-yard line, about 10 rows off.
Attaboy.
Actually, I'm not. I just thought I'd see if you guys would believe that. No, I'm looking very forward to the game. The over/under 50.5 points. That's 2 really good defenses too.
Yeah. And
the idea is, are they going to give up a combined 51 points? Is that the over? I kind of feel like they will. I do know this. Detroit, they're going to have a hard time running. I mean, but I'm so excited about this Vikings defense. And Jahmyr Gibbs is a real threat. And Detroit's got a solid ground game. But boy, that's going to be it's hard to run on this Vikings team.
It's going to be a great matchup. I mean, I love that 7-man front. Who's going to fall back? Who's coming? It's just a big guessing game for offenses.
Finally, on number one story, the weather report, the national weather report, the guys who really know what they're talking about, the National Weather Association Authority, whatever they're called, NOAA, is like, hey, guess what? You guys are going to be a little more precipitated, heavily wetter, much snowier winter this time around. Yeah. In fact, more. It looks like we're going to have more snow than the average winter, much less than last winter, which was far below average.
Yeah, I know. It's been a dry fall, but we had a wet winter, and that's the jet stream. That's what we'll get out of this little La Nina thing. And, bring on the snow. It's good for the economy. It's just good for... It's Minnesota. You got to have some snow.
I can tell you, I mean, just having only been here last winter, just in my second actual winter in town, I was thrown by how little snow we had. It kind of made me feel weird. I can only imagine how, for everyone who says, oh, I love it, I love not having snow, I know just the DNA, just the vibe of the area is like, wait, what's going on here? Something's weird. Yeah. I'm ready to see more trucks on lakes. Let's get some ice.
More people stranded on ice slabs floating around.
I need more of those great rescue stories. I don't want anybody not to come back, but I do like the idea of people floating away, doing what they have to do. So, that's what it looks like right now. Wetter than average conditions. You heard it here first. Bing, bang, boom. On the KQ Morning Show. We've got a very funny comedian coming in to hang out with us. Carmen Morales. Tonight and tomorrow night, Laugh Camp Comedy Club in St. Paul. The very funny Carmen Morales will be appearing, and lo and behold, she's a morning dove. You are the queen of the morning, aren't you? You are always up this early.
It's my favorite.
Keep on telling yourself that. So, but it's great to have you in. Thanks for getting up early.
Thank you. I mean, listen, sometimes it's nice to have a reason to set an alarm, That is one of the...
Yeah. Every now and again, you actually set it and think, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I genuinely felt that way about this. So this was good. This was like a genuinely... I was stoked. I'm stoked to be on.
If this is the highlight of your day, sister, I'm sorry. I'm just telling you, man, that's going to be a downhill run. You are originally from Orlando.
I am.
Did you ever work at Disney World?
No.
Okay. Did all your friends? Is that a thing?
Bunch of people did, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So it was nice because I never had to, after a while, I never had to pay to go. So now I'm spoiled and I don't. Yeah, because it's obscene now, but
right, of course. Well, not having to work there, but having access, that would kind of be the best of all worlds,
yes.
I would imagine.
I didn't have to hang out with the people who were, I didn't have to hang out with Disney people.
Nice. Yeah, very good. Very good. And so were you like a kid in Florida and you decided... comedy, that's calling my name, or did it happen later? Go back to the beginning of you thinking, I'm going to get up in front of people and be funny.
It's actually kind of embarrassing, but in first grade, we had to write a paper about who inspired us.
Okay.
And so everybody's talking about their dad or, astronauts or whatever.
Abraham Lincoln.
Exactly. Yeah. And I wrote my paper about Gallagher.
Oh my God. And you haven't changed it to George Carlin yet, so kudos to you.
I know, I should be lying.
You're not retelling that story. Robin Williams really struck my fancy. No, Gallagher.
Yeah, but to be fair, it was first grade, and
sure.
I did enjoy the element of spectacle that is smashing a watermelon.
Of course.
Little did I know he would end up being an insane person.
Well, but you weren't supposed to know, and
there was no way for me to know. But
without
it was
social media, would we have ever known?
No, probably not. He probably would have just died in obscurity.
See? No, I can get that. You're 6-7 years old and a sledgehammer and a watermelon. That's literally all you might need to feel like that's a good way to go through life.
Plus, he had that special where, I don't know if you remember this, where he had a huge couch on stage, and he would jump on the couch, and then the whole bit was him making fun of everything that you find in a couch.
Okay.
And so he had this huge couch made that he was like jumping on like a big trampoline.
Got it.
And then
sorry I missed it, but But you're painting a picture that, I'm not going to go look at. But no, really, I can see that working for a kid.
Yes.
So like musicians, comedians, you usually start by ripping other people off, whether you are or not. So please tell me at like 9, you took a sledgehammer to a watermelon, at least somewhere in the world.
No, I just liked what he did. It wasn't specifically him. I liked all the toys.
Sure. Yeah.
But I just liked that he made people laugh. So then I would just constantly try to do that in my life to a level of annoyance.
No, you don't get the joke. No, I get the joke. I just didn't like it. No, but you didn't get it. Yeah, I can see that. It just keeps going. Carmen Morales is at Laugh Camp tonight and tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Tomorrow night, it is at 7:30. You've been in the Twin Cities in the past. This is not your first time through.
I genuinely love the Twin Cities, and I mean that both of them, because I know some of you folks don't like to leave one of the cities to go to the other. But I like them both, and I like that they're both completely different cities right next to each other.
You pick up on that.
Yeah, because normally if you got something that close together, it's one of them is usually a homogenized version of the other.
Yeah.
But these are two very completely different vibes, very completely different cities, and I enjoy them both genuinely.
Strong answer, and I can I can tell I'm able to see in your eye you actually mean that. Go figure. Yeah.
Well, when I started doing stand up full time, I didn't live anywhere. I was one of those. For like 6 years, I didn't have an address.
Okay.
I just would pick up my mail at my mom's house every November because I would have to go home for the holidays and stay there and then I would leave at New Year's because I probably had a gig for New Year's. So I was on the road constantly, and this was one of my hubs. It was my buddy Greg Coleman, who I'm still friends with, and my buddy Dan Mogul, both comedians who are still here.
Yeah.
It was one of the, whenever you're traveling as a chick by yourself, you kind of just find out from other chicks where it's cool to stay.
Got it. Yeah.
And my friend Kendra was like, "Oh, my buddy Dan lives in Minneapolis. You should crash with him."
Yeah.
And I did, and it was delightful, and it was so.
Go figure.
And then I would just start. Anytime I was touring the country, I was always make sure and come here and spend a week or two. So much so that throughout the comedy community, everybody thinks I lived here for a while.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I just used to, I used to bum around here a lot.
But it's good. It's good to have local status in a variety of places.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I've lived in like 4 or 5 different cities, and you go back, and right away you're just like, yeah, I got it. I know where I'm going. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, it is. It is funny that nobody really knows where I'm from or where where I've resided. Everybody just assumes I was part of their scene because I spent time there.
We ask everybody who calls in or comes by a couple questions. Favorite band? Honestly.
Of all time?
Yeah. Got one. You can change your answer tomorrow, but for right now, who comes to mind?
Which genre?
Any. Just throw something out there.
Okay.
It's a rock station. Stick to rock.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Yes.
See, it's tough.
It is tough. You know why it's tough is because things have become not cool that once were cool.
Oh, no, not in this room. Music's music. Come on, if it worked at one time, it can still work.
I guess of all time, I'd probably say the one that I listen to the most is the Black Keys and Led Zeppelin is probably who I go to. I go
fine.
Okay.
Answers. No one's gonna mock you.
Well, Led Zeppelin, after
not
a while.
To your face.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Oh no! Listen, that's perfectly acceptable. What was the first concert you ever saw?
Oh, this is also
like
embarrassing.
Not with your parents, but with friends where you're like doing your own thing and it's cool and you're excited and you got the
This
ticket.
is also a very embarrassing answer because my first concert wasn't the best one.
Okay.
But it was the first time my parents ever said yes because I kept asking to go to shows.
Yeah, sure.
And then they finally were like, all right, fine. And I saw Papa Roach. And
by the way, okay, for everybody listening, when Carmen said the words Papa Roach, she gripped the table. She held on for dear life as if it was going to start shaking.
What I will say, though, is I went to... This is why you shouldn't always show up for the end of the show, is had I not showed up early, I would have never saw the band who opened for them, who I thought was better, which was Alien Ant Farm. I loved Alien Ant Farm.
Right Right on.
And it was right from that concert. I was like, oh, yeah, these guys are sick. Yeah. And then, of course, Papa Roach went up, and I was like, it was very eye-rolly in comparison.
I always love when you go to a concert and there's an opener that you've never heard of.
Yes.
But then because I used to be this kind of fan, so I laugh at myself. There's always one person that knows the opening band already, and you can tell that's who they're there for. And their stated mission in life is to make sure everyone else in that room knows that I know these songs. Yeah. This is my band. And you like the headliner, they suck. This is what it's all about. And I remember my favorite ever of that was not that long ago. Well, listen to me, not that long ago. It was like 2011. So it was only 13 years ago. I took my son at the time to see U2. And he had just discovered U2. So he was 11.
Gotcha.
And decided that was good. And I'm like happy to go. I hadn't seen him in years. And Florence and the Machine opened at a time when they were just coming on. And this is at a stadium. I mean, there's 60,000 people there. And there was one Florence and the Machine fan in the stadium. And everyone in the stadium watched her put on a show because she was standing in her chair and looking around, and I think she honestly thought she could get the whole stadium to like do a wave if she just worked hard enough.
Yeah.
But I was looking at her going, and my son was like, what does she do? What is with that? I'm like, that was me back in the day. I used to really have to shove that down people's throats that I knew more than they did. And it was just funny. But that's the good thing about music. Everybody's right at the end of the day.
I did have that recently where I went to see the band I wanted to see, and they were opening for somebody big. It was Shannon and the Clams were opening for Greta Van Fleet. And I could have, and I already know what Led Zeppelin sounds like. So I wasn't,
exactly.
I didn't care, But Shannon and the Clams opened for them, and it was at like the Palladium in LA, or I don't remember
somewhere.
Yes,
it was a million gigs out there.
Yes.
Somewhere.
And I was just smitten. They were one of the ones. I'm definitely a hipster about them, where I'll be like, their first album is actually the best one.
Sure.
And because it was real grungy and real. The sound was real dirty, and I loved it. And it sounded like it was recorded in a garage. I loved it.
Yeah, very good.
And so that was definitely one of those ones where I was like, oh, Greta Van Fleet's good. Okay, I get it. He can hit the notes. That's good. But I'm so glad I saw Shannon and the Clams.
That kid can hit some notes. I'm not saying he should, but he can.
Yes.
Ever play or sing yourself, an instrument or anything?
I did. Stand-up kind of one in that. I was in a band, and we had just started. We just started. I was a singer. We just started writing our own stuff. Like, we were doing a bunch of covers, and then we started writing our own stuff. And then I was gone all the time because I started getting booked all the time doing stand-up, and then...
So not like as a teenager. This is even later. This isn't like ninth grade.
This is early
band.
20s. Early 20s.
Right
I was like,
so really
I was serious, and I meant it, and I wanted to, but
was
I was
this
just...
in Florida or out west? Okay. What was the band's name? Most important part of this conversation. Always looking for a good band name. Oh, you don't even remember.
I don't.
Good. That means you were having a great time. That's awesome.
Because they changed it so many times.
I understand that. I learned a painful lesson in college. I was playing with some friends, and we would just play parties in town, covers and punk stuff. But we changed our name every time. And at some point, it dawned on us, it's kind of hard to build an audience when you're changing the name every
nobody
day.
knows who you are.
We were so punk rock that nobody knew who we were. That's how punk we were.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty strong stuff.
You should have been called If You Know You Know, because that's the only thing.
We would have been way ahead of the curve back in 1986. That would have been a good name. Carmen Morales is at Laugh Camp tonight, 8 o'clock, tomorrow, 7:30. And you're in LA now. How long have you been out there?
I've been out there 8 years.
Yeah, working for you?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's where they grow the food. It's nice.
It's right. It is. I'm a fan of both oceans and mountains, and so you put up with a few other headaches, but there's a lot to be said. Yeah,
you have to like driving as all. When people are like, I was thinking about moving to LA. I'm like, do you like being idle and do you like driving? Because that's the only real.
It cannot be overstated. My son just moved out there 2 months ago, and had his first little tremor, the earth moved once.
Yep.
First time. And I was like, how was that? And he's like, not good at all. I'm like, okay, just hang in there.
It's unsettling the first time.
It is unsettling.
But then after the fourth or fifth one, you're like, oh, it just feels like a subway is driving by. Oh, that's okay. Right. It's just a big truck.
It's just a planet. No big deal. Yeah. Carmen, it's great to see you. You're welcome anytime you're in town.
Thank you.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.